I'm taking a lot of your time. I'm mindful of that, but I want to ask you before we go to talk about whether there's some dimensions of the push for diversity, equity, and inclusion that give you concern. People playing various kinds of identity cards and canceling people that they don't agree with and things of this kind.
So I've recently heard this expression, the EDI industry, right? Industrial complex. And there are lots of things there that worry me, Glenn. So, for example, a few years ago, in the name of producing more inclusive results in mathematics, the statement was made that it's racist to have African American kids show their homework. If I'm trying to train track stars, is it racist for me to watch how they run? I don't think so. And so there are these things that have been thrown out there, like that as one example, or the belief that science is embedded in the way European thinks is another example. There's a lot of this sort of stuff out there that I find profoundly disturbing and worrisome. Well, let me put it this way. I have a friend who's an African-American scientist, and we have for decades been discussing these kinds of issues around what's now called inclusion, diversity, and equity. And my friend has this wonderful saying. He says, would it work in an athletic department, right? Would you try some of these ideas and transform and transfer them into a university athletic department and see what it works like? And to me, this is like a really great test of these ideas. So if you say, don't show homework, I say, okay, then I don't watch my track stars as they're running. If you say something like, it's racist to demand excellence, right? That's one of the ones we've heard. Then I say, show me a coach who tells a young black kid that you don't have to be the best you can be to excel in any athletic sport, right? So a lot of these things that people they claim that they're working to increase diversity, excellence, and inclusion are in fact counterproductive if the young people actually listen to them, at least from my perspective.
You know who Dorian Abbott is?
No, I'm afraid not.
Okay, he's a planetary scientist at the University of Chicago who was invited to give a distinguished lecture at MIT.
I do know.
And
know
who
where
had
you're going
published
now.
an op-ed in the Newsweek magazine attacking affirmative action as not meritorious. And he was canceled. The lecture was canceled at MIT after some objection because of his views about affirmative action. And he's become a cause celeb, with people saying it's, cancel culture run amok, and it's, what's the question of his politics got to do with the question of his science? And I just wondered if you had an opinion about that.
I don't believe in counseling people, Glenn. Look, many years ago, when I gave a lecture in Switzerland, at the end of the lecture, a gentleman, there's a long story, but at the end of the lecture, an American physicist came up to me and said, I've never heard a black man speak the white man's magic so well.
Well, I mean, I don't know if that's a compliment or an insult.
And that's the point, which is it, right? But the reason I raise that in this context is because I am always willing to have a spirited, intellectual debate about someone who disagrees with me. And to me, this is something for those of us who believe that we've got to change the system to make it better. We've also got to be open to the idea that other people can modify and correct our ideas. And you don't get that unless you engage. And that's, in fact, the danger of cancellation.
Couldn't agree more. My guest at the